The next morning, Emma awoke to the soft light of dawn filtering through her window. Outside, the village was still and quiet, like a painting from another era. The air was fresh and cool, carrying with it the scent of dew-kissed grass and distant woods. It was a far cry from the city's clamor that she was accustomed to. Stretching out her arms, Emma could feel the weight of the previous day's journey in her bones. But there was a different kind of tiredness now, a weariness that seemed to seep into one's very being. As the day wore on, Emma found herself drawn back to the garden. The whispers of the trees seemed to echo her own thoughts, and the rustling leaves made it feel as though the trees themselves were trying to communicate with her. In the distance, she could hear the rhythmic thud of an axe, a sound that seemed strangely alien in this tranquil setting. Glancing up, she noticed a crow perched on a tree branch, its sharp gaze seeming to pierce through the serenity of the scene. Emma couldn't shake off the feeling that she was being watched. Every time she turned around, she half expected to see the same young man from the previous evening standing there observing her. As dusk began to settle and the air grew cooler, Emma decided to head back indoors. The silence of the village was starting to feel oppressive, and she longed for the comforting sounds of human interaction. As she stepped into the house, she noticed a worn-out book lying on the table. Curiosity piqued. She opened it, and the scent of aged paper filled her nostrils. The book was filled with strange symbols and diagrams, and Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. It was as though the very essence of the village's secrets was laid bare before her. That night, as Emma lay in bed, the silence of the room was deafening. Every creak of the old house, every whisper of the wind outside sent shivers down her spine. She could feel her heart beating in her ears, drowning out the soft sound of rain that had begun to fall. Then she heard it again, the sound that had haunted her dreams the night before, a soft voice calling out her name. This time, though, it was closer, as though the voice was right outside her window. Paralyzed with fear, she watched as the curtains of her window moved slightly, as if someone had brushed against them. In the dim moonlight, she could make out the silhouette of a person standing just outside. Too afraid to call out or move, Emma buried her face in her pillow, her entire body trembling. In the heart of the village, nestled between ancient oak trees and weathered stone houses, stood a cottage shrouded in mystery. Its windows were dark and lifeless, like the eyes of a creature that lurked in the shadows. Villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, for it was said to be the home of a hermit who possessed knowledge beyond the understanding of ordinary men. Some claimed he was a sorcerer, his cottage filled with potions and incantations. Others whispered that he was a seer, able to predict the future by reading the stars. But all agreed that he was best left undisturbed, for those who had dared to enter his cottage never came out the same. As the minutes ticked by, the sound of rain grew louder, transforming into a torrent that lashed against the windows. Each drop seemed to echo the pounding of Emma's heart. Suddenly, the voice outside the window called out again, and this time, it was clear, raspy, and filled with an otherworldly charm. "Emma, are you awake?" Emma froze, her blood running cold. How did this person know her name? And why were they outside her window in the dead of night? Fear threatened to consume her, but curiosity, like a moth to a flame, drew her towards the window. Peering through the gaps in the curtains, she strained to see who was out there. But the relentless rain blurred her vision, making out only a dark figure standing beneath the street lamp. The figure reached out a hand, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. Was this the young man from the forest? But how did he know her name? What did he want from her? The next morning, Emma was sitting in the garden reading a book, when suddenly she heard the sound of footsteps. Startled, she turned, and there stood Ryan. In his hand were a few wildflowers, and on his face, that same enigmatic smile. "These flowers are for you," he said softly. "Only the brave dare to enter the forest where they grow." Emma accepted the flowers with a faint smile, but inside her heart, questions swirled like a storm. Why does he always appear so quietly? Why do people whisper whenever his name is mentioned? She wanted to ask him these questions, but before she could, Ryan began talking about the old tales of the village. He spoke of an abandoned mansion on the hill, where, they said, lights could be seen glowing at night, even though the place had been deserted for decades. Emma listened in wonder, yet there was something in Ryan's tone, as if he knew this story far more intimately than he should. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Emma had to return to her room. As she walked away, she couldn't help but glance back at Ryan. He stood motionless, his figure outlined against the vibrant colors of the sunset. That evening, when Emma returned to her room, her grandmother suddenly asked, "Child, have you met Ryan?" Emma froze, then slowly nodded. Her grandmother's face tightened with unease. "Stay away from him, Emma. That boy is not like others. People say something happened to him, something no one has ever truly understood." Emma nodded reluctantly, but her heart only beat faster. Later that night, she stood by her window. From the forest, she thought she saw a faint glimmer of light. And then, through the shifting shadows, Ryan appeared. His eyes carried a deep sadness, yet within them lingered an unspoken plea, as if he was silently calling Emma into his hidden world. A wave of bravery washed over her, and Emma couldn't help but take a step closer to the window. The sight of Ryan standing in the darkness, a solitary figure amidst the whispering trees, tugged at her heartstrings. Curiosity battled with her grandmother's warning, and for a moment, Emma felt torn. The allure of the unknown, symbolized by Ryan and his mysterious world, was hard to resist. Suddenly, a soft breeze rustled through the leaves outside, and Emma felt a tiny, almost imperceptible movement in the bushes below her window. A small, delicate flower, unseen until now, unfurled its petals in the gathering darkness, revealing a luminous glow that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. Startled, Emma instinctively took a step back. The flower, with its ethereal glow, stood out in stark contrast to the deep shadows that enveloped the garden. It was as if the flower itself was reaching out, beckoning Emma towards it. Her gaze, drawn to the flower, met Ryan's. His eyes, reflecting the light from the strange blossom, seemed to shine with an otherworldly luminescence. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The whispering wind, the gentle rustling of leaves, and the soft glow of the flower created an atmosphere of enchantment that was both captivating and unsettling. The flower continued to glow brighter, its light casting dancing shadows on the walls of Emma's room. With each passing moment, its glow intensified, filling Emma's room with a soft, otherworldly light. As if emerging from a dream, Emma turned her gaze back to Ryan. His form, once clear, was now partially veiled in shadow, yet his eyes, those fathomless pools of sadness, remained fixed on hers. The intensity of his stare sent a shiver down Emma's spine, and she found herself inexplicably drawn to his enigmatic presence. But the sight that truly stole her breath away was the flower. Its glow, once gentle, now pulsed with an otherworldly brilliance, illuminating the forest behind Ryan with an eerie light. The shadows seemed to recede, revealing a path that beckoned deeper into the woods. Ryan took a step forward, his silhouette outlined against the pulsating glow of the flower. A silent invitation hung in the air between them, urging Emma to follow him into the heart of the whispering woods. Overwhelmed by a mix of fear and fascination, Emma couldn't help but reach out. Her fingers brushed against the cool glass pane, grounding her in the moment. The flower's glow seemed to intensify, filling her room with an otherworldly light that cast dancing shadows on the walls. For a fleeting moment, Emma saw not just a boy standing in the darkness, but a kindred spirit who understood the whispers of the wind and the secrets held within the ancient trees. As their eyes met, Emma felt a connection that transcended words. In that instant, she knew she had to follow him, to journey into the unknown and uncover the truth that lay hidden in the depths of the whispering woods. That night, Emma was restless. Her grandmother's words kept echoing in her mind. "Stay away from him, Emma. You're just a pawn in his game." But the sorrow in Ryan's eyes would not let her rest. At last, she made her decision. "I have to know the truth." In the silence of the night, she slipped quietly out of the house and made her way toward the forest. The air was damp, and the rustling of the leaves carried an eerie sense of dread. After walking some distance, Emma saw it. Faint glimmers of light. She crept closer, step by cautious step. Ahead stood the abandoned mansion Ryan had spoken of, but to her shock, light was spilling through its windows. Emma's breath caught. Inside, Ryan was there. He was bent over an old table, reading something. In front of him lay a tattered book, surrounded by burning candles. Emma leaned carefully against the window to peek inside. Suddenly, Ryan lifted his head. His eyes glowed with an unsettling light, as if they carried something beyond human. Ryan moved quickly toward the door. Emma stumbled back in fear, but before she could retreat further, The door swung open, and there he was. "Emma." His voice was sharp. "Why are you here?" Emma's lips trembled, but she forced the words out. "Because I want to know you. What are you hiding from me?" Ryan took a deep breath, as though he had been carrying the weight of years on his shoulders. "Some secrets come with a price too heavy to bear, Emma, and I fear you won't be able to pay it." Emma's eyes held both fear and longing. "Even so, I want to know the truth." Ryan closed his eyes, and for the first time, he took Emma's hand. "Very well. I'll show you. But remember this. Once the veil is lifted, your life will never be the same again." The old house, steeped in shadows and secrets, loomed over them. As Ryan led Emma inside, each creaking floorboard and whispering wall seemed to carry a story from a bygone era. The air grew thick with anticipation, the silence broken only by the crackling of a nearby fire. In the grand hall, bathed in flickering candlelight, Ryan paused. "This is as far as I can take you, Emma," he said, his voice echoing in the vast space. "What you see from here on is not meant for human eyes. Are you sure you wish to proceed?" Emma's heart pounded against her ribs, a drum solo of fear and determination. Looking into Ryan's worried eyes, she nodded, her gaze unwavering. "I want to see the truth, Ryan. Whatever it is, I can handle it." He led her through a labyrinth of shadowy corridors until they reached a heavy wooden door. It was adorned with strange symbols that seemed to writhe and twist before her eyes. Taking a deep breath, Ryan placed his hand on the door, his touch lingering on the ancient carvings. Then, with a low growl, he pushed it open. Beyond the threshold lay a world both familiar and terrifyingly alien. A vast library stretched before them, its shelves laden with ancient tomes. But it was what resided amidst the books that stole Emma's breath away. Lurking between the rows of forbidden knowledge were creatures that defied human comprehension. Some resembled gnarled, sentient trees with faces carved into their trunks. Others were humanoid figures cloaked in shadows, their eyes burning with an otherworldly glow. One particularly horrifying entity seemed to be a fusion of man and beast, its features twisted into a grotesque parody of humanity. As Emma and Ryan ventured deeper into the library, the air grew heavy with a cloying sweetness, the sweet scent of decay. From the shadows, a chorus of whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls, their voices sibilant and chilling. Fear threatened to paralyze Emma, but Ryan's hand tightened around hers, anchoring her to the present. Suddenly, a raspy voice cut through the whispers. "Who dares disturb the sanctity of the grove?" Startled, Emma and Ryan turned to face the source of the voice. Emerging from the shadows, a figure of immense power and terrifying visage stepped into the flickering lamplight. Tall and gaunt, with skin like weathered bark, he radiated an otherworldly menace. His eyes, burning embers in their sockets, fixed on Emma and Ryan, sending a shiver down their spines. In the face of this formidable guardian, Emma felt a surge of admiration for Ryan. Despite the evident danger, he stood firm, his grip on Emma's hand unwavering. With a resolute nod, he stepped forward, ready to confront the guardian and uncover the truth that lay hidden within the grove's ancient walls. Ryan gripped Emma's hand tightly and pulled her into the old mansion. He shut the door behind him, and for a moment they stood there in the suffocating silence, the air thick with the smell of stale candles. "Ryan, what is all this?" Emma whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. She looked around at the countless portraits that adorned the mansion walls. Each face seemed sorrowful, with hollow, lifeless eyes that stared back at her. Ryan took a deep breath and opened the old book that rested on a nearby table. Its pages were filled with strange symbols and words written in Latin. "Emma," he began, his voice unusually grave. "This is my burden, my curse. Years ago, a curse was cast upon my family. In every generation, one child is born who ceases to be entirely human. Darkness, an evil, ancient darkness, binds itself to their soul. And this time, this evil has taken root in me." Emma's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" she breathed, her fingers tightening on Ryan's hand. Ryan lowered his gaze, his jaw clenched tight. "I am both a man and a shadow. At night, when darkness falls, my other form, my evil form, awakens. It hungers for power, and it uses me to quench its thirst. That is why the villagers fear me. They see me as a monster, which in truth, I am. Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine, but she stood her ground. After a moment, she found her voice. If all this is true, then why didn't you push me away? Why didn't you tell me? Ryan lifted his head, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Because you're the first person who has ever seen me as a human being, not as a curse, not as a monster. But if you stay close, this darkness could consume you too. Emma stepped closer, her heart aching at the pain etched on his face. Gently, she took his hand in hers. I'm not afraid of the darkness, Ryan. I'm only afraid of the day you decide to push me out of your life, of the day you decide to let the darkness win. For a moment, they stood there, the only sound the pounding of Emma's heart. Suddenly, the mansion's window rattled violently, and with the rushing wind came a whisper, a cold, cruel whisper as though some unseen presence had crept near them. The truth cannot be hidden. Now, we are one. Emma staggered back, her grip on Ryan's hand tightening in fear. Immediately, he caught her in his arms, pulling her close. His eyes flashed with anger and dread as he whispered fiercely, "No, as long as I live, no one will ever touch you." Emma buried her face in Ryan's chest, drawing comfort from his strong, reassuring presence. But even as she did, a part of her couldn't help but shiver at the thought of the darkness that lurked within him, at the evil that whispered of possessing her, of consuming her whole. She knew that the battle for Ryan's soul, for both their souls, had just begun. As night fell, the old mansion grew darker, the silence heavier. Emma sat by the window, watching the shadows stretch and twist, as if dancing to some eerie tune. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves against the glass, set her nerves on edge. She couldn't shake off the feeling that they weren't alone, that something else shared their solitude. Suddenly, a gust of wind slammed the window open, sending a shiver down Emma's spine. The room plunged into semi-darkness, and a cold breeze swept in, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something else, something unnameable, yet deeply unsettling. Fear tightened its grip around Emma's heart as she turned to Ryan, whose face was unreadable in the gloom. Was it the darkness of the room, or the darkness in Ryan that troubled her so? Or perhaps it was the realization that both were intertwined, inseparable. In the flickering lamplight, she saw the tormented depths of his eyes, the struggle that raged within them, and in that moment, she understood that their fates were now inextricably linked. The whispers in the wind, the shadows on the wall, they were all connected to him, to the curse that had been passed down through generations, binding them together in an ancient, inescapable bond. The grand old mansion loomed against the darkening sky, its silhouette a stark reminder of the secrets it held. Inside, the darkness grew heavier. One by one, the candles flickered out, leaving behind only the sound of the cold wind whistling through the empty halls. In the drawing room, Emma stood frozen, her gaze fixed on the ancient book in her hands. Beside her, Ryan's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the darkness on the wall, coiling and uncoiling like a living serpent. It slithered toward them, and in the flickering candlelight, Emma saw its eyes gleam red. Then another shadow emerged, and then another, until the room was filled with grotesque figures dancing in the gloom. "Run!" rasped a voice like grinding stones. "You cannot escape what is yours by birthright." The shadows pressed closer, their whispers growing louder, their eyes boring into Emma and Ryan. "Join us," they hissed. "Embrace the darkness." But Emma refused to budge. Her heart was racing, yet she stood firmly by Ryan's side, clutching his hand in hers. She could feel the terror radiating from him, but she forced herself to stay rooted to the spot, drawing strength from their shared fear. Then, the largest shadow loomed over them, its eyes burning like hot coals. "Ryan!" it boomed. "You are one of us. You must return to where you belong." Ryan's breath hitched, and Emma squeezed his hand in response. "Don't listen to them," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "You are not like them, Ryan. You are human, and your heart belongs with me." A tear escaped Ryan's eye, tracing a lonely path down his cheek. "Emma, he began, his voice hoarse. "If I refuse them, they will hurt you. They won't stop until you're gone. I can endure anything, Emma. Anything. But I cannot lose you." The shadow leaned closer, its hot breath fanning over Emma's face, its claws extended, ready to strike. In a flash, Ryan pushed her back, shielding her with his own body. "Go," he gasped. "Save yourself." With a scream that tore through the silent room, the shadow lunged. But before it could reach Emma, the old book in her hands burst with golden light. Startled, the shadow recoiled as if burned. Trembling, Emma watched as Ryan, his face illuminated by the golden glow, slowly lifted his hand, palm out, toward the cowering darkness. His eyes, though filled with fear, were resolute. And in a voice that echoed with newfound strength, he began to chant the words from the ancient book. As if a dam had broken, the words tumbled from his lips, each syllable resonating with power. "Begone, foul shadow, in the name of the light. I banish you back to the abyss from which you came. Return to the darkness. Begone." The room shook with the force of his words, the walls themselves trembling as if in pain. Summoning every ounce of courage she possessed, Emma grasped Ryan's outstretched hand. Their fingers intertwined, and together they continued the chant, their voices merging, rising together until they formed a single radiant beam of light. The great shadow writhed in the center of the room, its form twisting and contorting as it shrieked in agony. Then, with a final ear-piercing scream that shattered the silence of the mansion, it twisted and dissolved, vanishing into wisps of black smoke that seeped through the cracks in the walls and disappeared into the darkness beyond. Silence descended upon the room, heavy and profound. The golden light faded, leaving Emma and Ryan bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun that filtered through the dusty windows. Trembling, Ryan slumped to the ground, the ancient book slipping from his grasp. Emma rushed to his side, her heart pounding in her chest. "Ryan, are you all right?" she cried, kneeling beside him. Slowly, very slowly, Ryan opened his eyes. There was no longer any red glow in their depths, only a peaceful calm. He looked up at Emma, a faint smile gracing his lips. "The curse is broken, Emma," he whispered, his voice weak but steady. "You saved me." Tears streamed down Emma's face, blurring the fading light. "No, Ryan," she whispered back, taking his hand in hers. "We saved each other." Ryan managed a weak laugh, his grip on her hand tightening ever so slightly. "No shadow will ever come between us again," he murmured, his eyes fluttering closed as he leaned against her. And outside the mansion, as if to underscore their victory, the heavy oak doors burst open, releasing the shadows that had been trapped within. Now free, they danced in the gathering dusk, celebrating the breaking of the curse and the triumph of love over darkness.